Thank you, and welcome to the Bottom Line, a wrap of the business news of the day. I'm Frances Hurd, and tonight we're focusing on cryptocurrencies or digital coins, the most well-known, of course, being Bitcoin. And we're asking if the current rally in cryptocurrencies is akin to the gold rush. Some are saying it's the new gold rush. Let's first bring up a graph to show you how the cryptocurrency Bitcoin itself, the value of it has gyrated over the last 5 years or so. So it's interesting to put this all in context. Now, Bitcoin reached a record high of $20,000 in December 2017. But then you may recall that it crashed. And a year later, it was barely trading above $3,000. It started to pick up last year. And this year, the optimism is back. And it's had a really incredible run. Bitcoin has outperformed gold, stocks, and bonds and has surged by about 50% so far this year, although it is off the high above $12,000, trading at around $10,750 per coin. Now, like gold, it seems to have become a refuge for investors when economies are in turmoil and currencies are going up and down. For a long time, of course, gold has been seen as a safe haven or a store of future value. Bitcoin also has a limited supply, and there are major costs to digital mining, just like traditional mining. In July, even the chair of the Federal Reserve said that Bitcoin was gold's biggest competition. Well, let's speak to Luno now. It's South Africa's biggest cryptocurrency exchange. Recently, it was acquired by a global company, Digital Currency Group. To discuss, we're joined by Marius Reitz, who is the General Manager for Africa at Luno. Mr. Reitz, thank you for being with us. Once cryptocurrencies were written off as a fad by some, do you believe right now that there could be the new gold, the surge could be the new gold rush?
Evening, Francis. Yes, I think COVID-19 had a significant impact on Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has performed well since the initial crash we saw in March this year. And as you mentioned, Bitcoin is one of the best performing assets year to date compared to gold, which is on a 25%, S&P 500 17%, and also the Dow Jones, which is negative 2%. So we are seeing a moderate correlation to gold and equities. And if you look back to the start of the lockdown, gold initially spiked and then pulled back as people needed cash to cover their expenses. And Bitcoin followed the exact same pattern. And it has been moving more closely to gold over the last 3 months. And so it appears to validate the narrative that Bitcoin is a safe haven asset. I think perhaps we need more time. Bitcoin has only been around for 10 years or so compared to gold with a 1,000-year track record. So I think, but the certainty definitely is that Bitcoin survived this stress test. It was only created, it only came into existence after the previous financial crisis in 2008. So no one really knew how it would react or how it would respond to a global financial crisis. So I think, but while it holds a lot of promise in the long run, I think it's important to mention that it's still very volatile in the short run, and people shouldn't buy Bitcoin with money that they need now. And the price isn't only guaranteed to go up, even though we've seen the 49 or 50% gains year to date.
Well, I'm glad you're giving that responsible advice. So looking at this Bitcoin going up in light of uncertainty, it's interesting it's gone up today after the presidential debate, which has created uncertainty on the markets. But then the question is, what when things return to normal, if they do, but economies will settle? Some saying, Robert Kiyosaki, for example, saying when a vaccine is found, then there's going to be a crash in Bitcoin. Do you think that's a risk?
Look, I think if you look back over the last 10 years and you take a step back, you will see that we've since the start been on a long-term upward price trend. So I think in the short run, yes, we will definitely see more price volatility. The price is likely to pull back again. The price is likely to move up and down in the short run. But I think if you look beyond the next 6 to 12 months, I think if you look at it from a price perspective, as we discussed, we've had long-term upward growth over the last couple of years. From a regulatory perspective, we've seen a lot of new developments and even in South Africa, the South African Reserve Bank came out with their position paper on how they propose to regulate crypto assets. We've seen big corporations also, specifically in the US, coming out taking positions in cryptocurrency, and I think that is providing the industry with some much needed momentum. And then also from a use case perspective, I think this year, as a result of some of the economical and also political uncertainty in certain markets, especially in emerging markets like Nigeria, we've seen that the payments or the remittance use case come to the fore as a result of the traditional system failing people in Nigeria. So a shortage in US dollars necessitated Nigerians, businesses doing business cross-border and even locally to opt for cryptocurrency to continue doing business. So I think, yes, we're likely to see pullbacks in the short run. We're likely to see market fluctuations. But I think from a fundamental perspective, we've seen a lot of progress and we've seen an increase in adoption. More people hearing about crypto, more people taking that first step and buying a small amount. And I think, as we said just now, that's a responsible thing to do. Start small and force yourself to learn about the risks and to educate yourself. And that is the role that we at Luno is playing in the market at this stage, providing that safe and easy access to consumers.
Well, let's look at Luno. So over 5 million customers in over 40 countries. You've now been taken over by a global company. But tell me specifically about South Africa. What activity is there? How mainstream, how popular has Bitcoin become amongst South Africans themselves?
Francis, yes, I think we're still very much in the early stages. If we look at the use cases in South Africa, you'll see that most South African holders of cryptocurrency are buying for speculative or investment purposes. But looking outside the SA borders in emerging markets, we're seeing a different use case developing. I think, as I just said, that's where the financial system has struggled to serve people, and we're seeing the door open for cryptocurrency. And also people in emerging markets tend to be a bit more financial savvy out of necessity, and that is why we're seeing grassroots level growth in Africa, specifically in countries such as South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and then also Nigeria. But I think, having said this, the biggest challenge in Africa and also in South Africa currently still is safe and easy access to cryptocurrency. Africa is lacking the infrastructure, so we're still in the early stages, and I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done to educate people about cryptocurrency and for people to take that first step into what we call a new financial system.
Yeah. And final question, very quickly. You spoke about the Reserve Bank and central banks around the world trying to grapple with this. How will they regulate cryptocurrency? Otherwise, you can just start moving money around with no breaks whatsoever. But once the regulation is in place and pretty firm, is things like Bitcoin still have that allure? Are they still free from control, which has been the big win for many investors?
Yes, I think locally in South Africa, the SA Reserve Bank been very pragmatic in their approach to regulating cryptocurrency. It's very important to focus on the service providers, such as the exchanges, and I think it'll definitely give consumers a little bit more comfort that the exchange or the business they're dealing with then is held to defined regulatory standards. So I think that's very important. From a Bitcoin perspective, yes, absolutely. I think greater clarity from a regulatory perspective will in fact lead to greater adoption of cryptocurrencies across South Africa and Africa. Some of the challenges we currently face as an industry is creating that safe on-ramp where people can use their South African rands, for example, to purchase crypto. And I think regulations will definitely also provide comfort to commercial banks to allow their customers to purchase cryptocurrency. So I think it'll overall lead to more comfort and clarity. And yes, cryptocurrency by its nature, or Bitcoin by its nature, is decentralized. So meaning it's spread across the world, much like the internet. And that enables or allows people to do faster transactions, to do cheaper transactions. And then also, as you mentioned earlier, from an investment perspective, Bitcoin has a finite supply of only 21 million. And that puts it on a deflationary supply curve, unlike fiat currency such as the United States dollar, for example, where governments can print additional units of currency. And what we've seen in the past is that typically leads to medium to longer term periods of price inflation. So I think from a payments perspective, from Bitcoin as a store of value and an investment perspective, I think, as I said, over the medium to long term, I do see a lot of progress to be made in the market.
But let's emphasize what you said earlier, that it could be volatile in the short term. So investors should be aware, but very exciting what is happening amongst cryptocurrencies this year. Thank you very much for your time tonight. That was Marius Reitz, the GM.